Some selfies are deadly, taken in a split second that changes lives forever. In this video, we dive into 5 jaw-dropping cases where thrill seekers, daring adventurers, and social media influencers ignored the risks. What started as a quest for the perfect shot ended in tragedy, leaving behind heartache, cautionary tales, and moments that are impossible to forget.
An elderly man was killed in an attack by an elephant outside the buffer zone of the Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve in the Indian state of Madhya Pradesh.
It happened deep in the forests of Quanermunda, Odisha, in 2017, a place that seemed calm, almost untouched, but where an invisible tension hung in the air, felt by every villager. Only one man chose to ignore it. Ashok Bharti, a 54-year-old construction worker from Cuttack, had no idea he was walking straight into the final moments of his life. That morning, forest officials and villagers had gathered to monitor a lone, wild elephant that had wandered from its herd. The massive animal was restless, confused, and visibly distressed. Everyone understood the danger. Everyone stayed back. Everyone listened to the warnings except Ashok. Some said he had been drinking. Others said he simply underestimated the risk. Whatever the reason, he stepped away from the safety of the crowd, phone in hand, convinced he could get close enough to snap a selfie with a wild elephant already on edge. Witnesses watched in horror as he drifted forward, smiling, holding up his phone, completely unaware of the invisible line he was crossing between curiosity and catastrophe. Officials shouted, villagers begged, but Ashok kept moving, a man sleepwalking toward disaster. And then the elephant saw him. The giant, already trembling with fear and isolation, locked eyes on the human walking straight into its space. Its body stiffened, ears flared, and the air seemed to crackle with tension. People from a safe distance could feel the change in the atmosphere the instant the elephant snapped. It charged. Ashok spun to run, but fear had made his body clumsy. He tripped, fell, and in the blink of an eye, the forest erupted with screams as the elephant closed in. The impact was brutal, unstoppable. One wrong step, one careless decision, and life as he knew it ended. Rescuers tried to intervene, but there was no stopping it. He was rushed to the hospital, but the injuries were beyond saving. Ashok died before help could reach him. News spread like wildfire. Another elephant attack, another preventable death. Villagers were heartbroken. Officials were furious. They had been fighting a series of dangerous encounters, agitated animals destroying crops, wandering into villages, threatening lives, and yet one man had thrown himself into danger for a photograph. Forest officers later revealed they had been trying to push the crowd back when Ashok slipped past them. They smelled alcohol. They knew he was too close. They knew the elephant was unstable, but by the time anyone realized what he was doing, it was already too late. Shaky cell phone videos taken by terrified onlookers captured every moment. They spread across social media, leaving viewers stunned. The footage didn't just show a man being attacked. It showed how quickly life can unravel when fascination overrides fear, when ego silences instinct. Ashok's death became a chilling reminder of a dangerous obsession sweeping the world, risking life for the perfect selfie. This wasn't a cliff edge or a skyscraper rooftop. This was a wild, unpredictable animal, panicked and cornered, with no interest in entertaining anyone's desires for attention or fame. In the end, it feels almost unreal, a man standing before a 5-ton creature, focused on his phone instead of the danger. A split second that transformed curiosity into tragedy. A stark reminder that nature doesn't negotiate. It doesn't bend for selfies, and it certainly doesn't forgive. Alfred Lowenstein was one of the wealthiest men in the world, a Belgian financier whose fortune came from daring investments in electricity and synthetic materials at a time when both industries were still in their infancy. By the 1920s, he was a man of immense influence, consulted by heads of state, rubbing shoulders with the elite, and commanding a lifestyle most could only dream of. His wealth was staggering, his success undeniable, yet his end would be as bizarre as it was tragic. A moment so surreal it seemed almost impossible to believe. It was July 4th, 1928. and Lowenstein boarded his private aircraft for a short flight over the English Channel, accompanied by 6 others. The plane, a Fokker trimotor, carried him effortlessly through the sky, and the journey seemed routine. But in those quiet, fleeting minutes, destiny was waiting. Lowenstein reportedly moved to the rear of the plane, intending to use the lavatory. A simple act, a mundane decision. Yet, in the blink of an eye, he vanished. The lavatory was empty. The rear entrance door of the plane was open, flapping violently in the wind. Panic spread among those on board as reality sank in. Alfred Lowenstein, one of the richest men in the world, had fallen out of his own airplane. The flight continued to land, but the mind could not comprehend the scene. How could a man with everything, power, influence, wealth, and intellect, simply disappear into the sky like that? His body was found days later near Boulogne, battered but unmistakably alive when he struck the water. The coroner confirmed the fatal injuries, yet the questions remained. How had it happened? Was it a terrible accident, a moment of absent-mindedness, or something more sinister? Theories swirled. Some whispered of conspiracies among business partners eager for a windfall. Others suggested suicide, or that Lowenstein had been careless, distracted by the pressures of a vast and complicated empire. Some even speculated he had faked his death entirely, vanishing to escape the looming collapse of his ventures. His death sent shockwaves across Europe. Stock markets trembled, companies plummeted, and headlines screamed the impossibility of the event. Lowenstein, a man who had survived the complexities of high finance, the turbulence of business wars, and the scrutiny of the world's most powerful, was undone by a single, silent moment at the back of his plane. He was buried in an unmarked grave, leaving behind a fortune, a mystery, and a story that would fascinate and haunt the world for decades. It's a chilling reminder that no amount of wealth or power can shield anyone from the sheer unpredictability of life, and that sometimes the tiniest mistake can lead to the most unimaginable end. Sophia Chung had always lived on the edge, both literally and figuratively. At 32, the Hong Kong-based adventurer had built a devoted following on Instagram, capturing breathtaking photographs from cliff edges, mountain ridges, and other perilous locations. Her bio read, "Life should be fun, not dumb," a motto that perfectly reflected her daring spirit and love for the outdoors. On a July afternoon in 2021, Sophia set out with 3 close friends for a hiking trip to Hapakai, a scenic nature area near Yuano Long, known for its rugged waterfalls and dramatic sunsets. For her, the trip was not just an escape into nature, but another chance to create visually stunning content that would inspire and captivate her followers. The group eventually reached the Tingdai stream in Twin Moon, a picturesque spot where water cascaded into deep, rocky pools. The scene was beautiful, serene, and perfect, yet it hid danger beneath its shimmering surface. True to form, Sophia moved toward the edge of the falls, searching for the ideal angle for a photograph. Around 5 p.m., a moment of misjudgment proved fatal. While balancing near the drop, she slipped. In an instant, the adventurer plunged approximately 16 feet into the deep pool below. Her friends screamed, shocked, and immediately called emergency services. Rescue teams arrived quickly, but despite their swift response, Sophia was pronounced dead on arrival at Pamela Udiol Eastern Hospital in Taiwan. Sophia's social media had long reflected her fearless approach to life. She often shared images of herself dangling her feet off cliffs, standing on narrow ridges, or exploring waterfalls, captivating thousands with her blend of beauty, bravery, and joy. Her feed was a testament to a life lived on the edge, where every image told a story of freedom and exhilaration. Just days before the accident, she had posted a photo kneeling on a shore with a yellow boogie board, captioned, "Better days are coming. They are called Saturday and Sunday." A simple, cheerful message that now carries an ironic and heart-wrenching weight. Authorities confirmed that Sophia had been with friends at the time, but the location she chose was inherently dangerous. Apakai, near the popular hiking area of Pineapple Mountain, is beloved for its scenic views and natural pools. Yet, steep drops and slippery rocks make it unforgiving to even the most experienced hikers. Emergency responders emphasized that accidents can happen to anyone, especially when attempting to position oneself for photographs on unstable terrain. News of her death spread quickly across social media, and tributes poured in. Friends and followers expressed shock and grief, remembering Sophia for her infectious energy, her adventurous spirit, and the joy she brought to outdoor exploration. While her death was a tragic loss, her community celebrated a life fully embraced, a life driven by curiosity, passion, and a relentless pursuit of beauty in the natural world. Her passing is also part of a broader, sobering phenomenon: death by selfie. Studies have shown that countless individuals around the world have lost their lives attempting risky photographs, often involving falls, drownings, or encounters with natural hazards. Sophia's story highlights just how dangerous the pursuit of the perfect shot can be, particularly near cliffs, waterfalls, or other unstable terrain. Sophia Chung's life and death stand as a haunting reminder that even the most experienced adventurers can be vulnerable in a fleeting moment of misjudgment. But her legacy endures in the vivid images she captured and the memories she left behind. A life lived on the edge, fearless, passionate, and awe-inspiring, reminding us all of the beauty and fragility of the world around us.
We have an update on a story we first brought to you last night about a man who fell 400 feet to his death at the Grand Canyon.
In August 2024, the south rim of the Grand Canyon was quiet in the early morning hours, the kind of stillness that makes the canyon feel even more immense. At Yavapai Point, one of the most popular viewpoints in the park, the sun was just beginning to rise, casting long shadows across the layered rock walls. Most visitors who come here simply stand behind the railings, take a few photos, and leave with a sense of awe. But on this morning, one man had something far more dangerous in mind. Instead of admiring the view, he had come prepared for a jump. Base jumping, leaping from fixed objects with a parachute, is one of the most extreme sports in the world. The name itself is an acronym for buildings, antennas, spans, and earth. It's risky even in places where it's allowed. At the Grand Canyon, it's strictly prohibited. The cliffs are unpredictable, the winds can shift without warning, and the terrain below offers very few safe landing spots. Park officials have banned the activity for one simple reason: it kills people. But the man at Yavapai Point ignored the rules. Sometime around 7:30 that morning, he stepped beyond the safety of the overlook and launched himself into the open air. For a few seconds, he must have felt the rush, the wind roaring past, the canyon walls racing upward as he dropped. Then the parachute deployed, and still, it wasn't enough. When park rangers were alerted and reached the scene, they found his body about 500 feet below the rim. The parachute was open beside him, a chilling sign that the jump itself had worked, but something else had gone terribly wrong. Maybe the wind pushed him off course. Maybe the landing zone was too unforgiving. Or maybe the canyon simply did what it always does to those who underestimate it. Recovery teams had to return the next day with a helicopter to retrieve his body from the canyon. His name wasn't immediately released, and officials began an investigation into the incident. What they did confirm, though, was that this was yet another death caused by a high-risk activity that had already been banned for years. What makes this case different from many other canyon tragedies is the intent. This wasn't a slip, a stumble, or a moment of distraction. This was a calculated risk, a decision to ignore the warnings, the signs, and the rules designed to keep people alive. And in the end, the canyon proved exactly why those rules exist. Every year, thrill seekers are drawn to places like this, convinced they can outsmart the danger, convinced they'll be the exception. But the Grand Canyon doesn't care about confidence or experience. It doesn't bend the rules for adrenaline or ego. One wrong move, one unpredictable gust, one misjudged landing, and the adventure turns into a recovery mission. For most people standing at Yavapai Point, the canyon is a place of wonder. For this man, it became the last place he ever saw, all because of a single jump that was never supposed to happen in the first place.
There were 2 deaths this week at the Grand Canyon. One man accidentally went over the edge while taking a selfie.
In March 2019, the Grand Canyon once again drew in visitors from across the world, all chasing that same breathtaking view that seems almost too vast to be real. At Eagle Point, a remote overlook on the western edge of the canyon, the desert air was quiet, and the landscape stretched endlessly into the distance. It's the kind of place where people instinctively reach for their cameras, trying to capture a view that no photo can truly do justice. Among the visitors that day was a tourist from Hong Kong, a man in his 50s traveling as part of a tour group. Like so many others, he wanted a picture at the edge, something to remember the moment, something to show back home. Eagle Point is famous for its dramatic cliffs and for the nearby skywalk, a glass bridge that hangs over the canyon. But unlike the skywalk, much of the surrounding rim is raw and unprotected. There are warning signs, but no railings, no barriers, just rock, sky, and a drop that stretches 1,000 feet straight down. The man moved closer to the edge, camera in hand, trying to frame the perfect shot. It probably felt safe enough. The ground seemed solid, the weather was calm, and there were only a few other visitors nearby. But the canyon doesn't forgive small mistakes. According to officials, he stumbled near the rim while taking photos. It may have been loose gravel, a misjudged step, or simply a moment of lost balance. Whatever the cause, the result was immediate and irreversible. He went over the edge and disappeared from sight, plunging roughly 1,000 feet into the canyon below. There were no railings to stop him, no second chance to grab hold of anything, just a silent fall into the vast emptiness he had come to admire. Later that afternoon, a helicopter was sent down into the canyon to recover his body from far below the rim. The overlook closed for the rest of the day, and officials offered prayers to his family. The man's name was not immediately released, but the tragedy spread quickly through the news, becoming yet another reminder of how dangerous the canyon can be. What makes the story so unsettling is how ordinary it sounds. No wild stunt, no attempt to climb or jump, just a tourist taking pictures at the edge of one of the world's most famous landmarks. The same thing millions of visitors do every year. Yet, at a place like the Grand Canyon, the difference between a memory and a tragedy can come down to a single misplaced step. Every year, millions of people stand at these same edges, leaning forward for a better view, inching closer for a better photo. Most walk away with nothing more than snapshots and stories. But for a few, the canyon becomes the last thing they ever see, and it all happens in a moment that feels harmless, right up until it isn't.
A young man from North Carolina has died from a fall at the Grand Canyon. The Park Service says 20-year-old Abel Mejia was killed.
In July 2024, the Grand Canyon was baking under the brutal summer sun, the kind of heat that seems to rise from the rocks themselves. The air shimmered above the rim, and warning signs reminded visitors to stay on trails, keep their distance from the edge, and avoid the worst of the afternoon temperatures. But like millions of others each year, 20-year-old Abel Joseph Mejia had come to see the canyon with his own eyes. Abel was a college student from North Carolina, known among friends and classmates for his warm smile and gentle spirit. He had been traveling during time off from a mission trip, taking the opportunity to visit one of the most famous natural wonders in the world. For someone young, full of faith, and eager to experience life, the canyon must have felt like the perfect place to pause and take it all in. Somewhere near the Pipe Creek Overlook, about a quarter-mile west of the main viewpoint, Abel moved close to the rim. From that spot, the canyon opens up into a vast, dizzying drop, the layers of rock fading into the hazy distance below. It's the kind of view that pulls you forward without even realizing it, the kind that makes you want to stand just a little closer, just for a better look. But the rim is deceptive. The ground can be uneven, the rock edges unpredictable, and in the heat, even a moment of distraction can be dangerous. Officials later said Abel was near the edge when he suffered an accidental fall. There were no dramatic stunts, no wild dares, just a young visitor standing too close to a place where the ground suddenly disappears. He fell roughly 400 feet below the rim. By the time rangers reached the scene, it was already too late. His body was recovered from the canyon floor, and the fall was ruled accidental. News of the tragedy spread quickly back to his college and church communities. People who knew him spoke about his kindness, his faith, and the quiet positivity he carried wherever he went. To them, he wasn't just another name in a park report. He was a son, a friend, a student with a future that had barely begun. Park officials once again urged visitors to stay on designated trails, keep at least 6 feet away from the rim, and respect the barriers put in place. In the summer, temperatures in exposed parts of the canyon can soar past 120 degrees Fahrenheit, making conditions even more dangerous and rescue efforts more difficult. What seems like a peaceful overlook can quickly become a deadly environment. What makes Abel's story so difficult to hear is how simple it was. A young man, on a break from a mission trip, visiting one of the most beautiful places on Earth. No reckless stunt, no intention to take risks, just a step too close to the edge. At the Grand Canyon, that's all it takes. One moment you're staring out at the view, and the next, the ground beneath you is gone. And for the people left behind, that single moment changes everything forever. In October 2018, Sandra Manuela D. Costa Macedo, a 44-year-old mother of 2, had just arrived in Panama City to begin a new chapter as a teacher. Originally from Aves in northern Portugal, she was vibrant, caring, and full of life. A woman whose energy and warmth touched everyone she met. Moving abroad was both an adventure and a chance for personal and professional growth. And in those first days, she explored the bustling El Congrejo neighborhood with curiosity and excitement, marveling at the sights, sounds, and rhythm of a city entirely new to her. Sandra had always believed in embracing life fully, whether through her work in education or the moments she shared with her family. On the morning of Friday, October 12, 2018, Sandra climbed onto the balcony railing of the 27th floor of the Luxor Tower. Her goal seemed simple: to capture a striking photograph of herself against the sprawling cityscape, a lasting memory of her new life in Panama. Holding her selfie stick tightly, she leaned forward, focused entirely on her phone, unaware of how precarious her position had become. Below her, construction workers and nearby residents shouted warnings, their voices tense and urgent, but the gusts of wind sweeping across the high-rise drowned out their cries. Each second on that ledge brought mounting danger, but Sandra, absorbed in the moment and intent on the perfect photo, remained oblivious to the peril surrounding her. Shortly after 10:00 a.m., tragedy struck. A sudden, strong gust of wind slammed against the building, unbalancing her in an instant. Sandra fell backward from the railing, plummeting 27 floors to the ground below. Witnesses froze in horror, some unable to watch, as she tumbled still, clutching the selfie stick. The scene was surreal and devastating. Life ended in a matter of seconds. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, but it was too late. Sandra was pronounced dead on arrival, the fall leaving no possibility of survival. News of her death spread quickly, rippling through Panama and across the ocean to Portugal. Her family, already grieving the loss of her brother just 2 years prior, were plunged into unimaginable sorrow. Friends and colleagues took to social media, sharing stories of her generosity, warmth, and the joy she brought to those around her. One close friend described Sandra as someone whose support and kindness had always been unwavering, urging others to keep her in their prayers. Another recalled her dedication to her students, recounting how she went above and beyond to ensure every child felt seen, heard, and encouraged. The circumstances of Sandra's death ignited a public conversation about the risks of taking selfies in unsafe locations. Panama's fire service issued a warning to the public: don't risk your life for a selfie. It's more important to lose a minute in life than your life in a minute. Studies conducted between 2011 and 2017 revealed that at least 259 people worldwide had died attempting selfies, with falls from heights among the leading causes. Sandra's passing, at just 44 years old, made this danger painfully real and personal for the communities she touched. Her story is not only a stark warning, but also a deeply human tragedy. 2 children were left without their mother, a family was left shattered, and a community mourned a woman whose presence had brightened classrooms, homes, and hearts alike. Sandra's life, filled with passion, compassion, and dedication, ended in a fleeting moment. A single misjudged action that changed everything. Her death stands as a haunting reminder that even a brief lapse in judgment, a fleeting distraction, or a momentary pursuit of the perfect image can have irreversible consequences. It is a story of joy turned to sorrow, of life's fragility, and the urgent need to respect the fine line between thrill and danger.
The billionaire banker who was seemingly murdered in his penthouse in Monaco, which is ironically considered the safest country for the wealthy.
Edmond Safra, one of the wealthiest and most influential bankers in the world, lived a life of power, privilege, and precision, but his end came in the most shocking and senseless way imaginable. Born in Beirut in 1932 to a family of Sephardic Jewish bankers, originally from Aleppo, Syria, Safra inherited a legacy of finance and ambition. By the time he was a teenager, he was already immersed in his father's banking business, learning the ins and outs of precious metals and foreign exchange. The family eventually moved to Italy, then Brazil, where Safra began shaping the empire that would make him a billionaire and a global financial force. By the 1980s, his banks had grown into multi-billion-dollar institutions, and his wealth extended across Geneva, New York, Monaco, and beyond. His clients were some of the richest and most powerful people on the planet, and his reputation for discretion, intelligence, and unmatched financial acumen was legendary. Safra was not only a financier, but a philanthropist of remarkable vision. He devoted vast sums of money to causes spanning education, medicine, and religion. He built and renovated synagogues in cities across the globe, saved historic Jewish sites from destruction, and supported hospitals from Sao Paulo to Tel Aviv. In New York, he endowed the Edmond J. Safra Synagogue, while in Israel, he contributed to the construction of the Edmund and Lily Safra Children's Hospital. His generosity extended to medical research, supporting Parkinson's studies, cancer research, and healthcare institutions worldwide. Even without a university education, he championed higher education, establishing scholarships, professorships, and research centers in some of the world's most prestigious institutions, ensuring that his legacy would influence future generations. Yet, despite all his accomplishments, his life ended in a way that no amount of money or influence could prevent. On December 3, 1999, at his luxurious penthouse in Monaco, a fire erupted that would take his life. The blaze was no accident. Investigators revealed that the fire had been deliberately set by one of his own security guards in a twisted attempt to stage a heroic rescue. The plan went horribly wrong, spiraling out of control and trapping Safra in the smoke-filled mansion. Despite the sophisticated security of his residence, Safra could not escape. He and his nurse, Vivian Torrente, were suffocated by the smoke. The man he trusted to protect him had become the architect of his death. The shock of Safra's death rippled across the world. Here was a man who had meticulously built his life around precision, control, and foresight, only to fall victim to a reckless and ill-conceived act of ambition from someone he trusted implicitly. The tragedy was compounded by his frail health. Safra had been battling Parkinson's disease and required nursing care, a vulnerability that made the fire even more deadly. News of his death stunned the financial world, and the circumstances surrounding it sent shivers down the spines of anyone who had ever considered themselves untouchable. Even in death, Safra's influence continued to be felt. Half of his immense fortune was directed to charitable causes, ensuring that his wealth would continue to impact lives around the world. His philanthropic initiatives, from education and healthcare to religious preservation and scientific research, remain living monuments to his vision and generosity. Yet, the image of a billionaire banker, suffocated in his own home by the very person he entrusted with his protection, remains one of the most chilling tales of wealth, trust, and human folly.
And a rather bizarre death to report this morning of the British man who now owns the Segway company. You may be familiar with the Segway. It sort of looks like an electric scooter. Turns out he was found dead at the bottom of a cliff.
Jimmy Heselden wasn't born into luxury. He started out as a coal miner in northern England, the kind of man who worked with his hands, breathed in dust, and built his fortune from the ground up. After losing his job during the mining layoffs of the 1980s, he used his redundancy money to start a small business. That gamble turned into something massive. His invention, the Hesco Bastion, a collapsible barrier used to protect soldiers from explosions, was shipped to war zones across the world. Governments bought them by the thousands. By the late 2000s, Heselden wasn't just successful, he was worth hundreds of millions. He was also known as a generous man. He donated millions to charities, supported wounded veterans, and helped build community foundations in his hometown. To many people, he was the perfect rags-to-riches story. A former miner who became one of the wealthiest men in the United Kingdom. Then, in December 2009, he made a move that put him in the global spotlight. He bought the company behind one of the most recognizable gadgets on the planet, the Segway. That strange, self-balancing scooter had once been hyped as the future of transportation, and now it belonged to him. It was a symbol of innovation, wealth, and success, and for a short time, everything seemed perfect. But just 9 months later, on a quiet morning in September 2010, something went terribly wrong. Heselden was out near his countryside home in West Yorkshire, riding one of the rugged Segway models. It wasn't a publicity stunt or a grand event. It was just a simple ride, the kind of everyday moment no one thinks twice about. He was reportedly walking his dog along a path near a steep drop. Another dog walker approached, and Heselden tried to maneuver the Segway to make space. In that single, ordinary moment, everything changed. As he reversed, the ground behind him disappeared. The Segway rolled backward over the edge of a 30-foot cliff, and Heselden plunged into the river below. The same device he now owned, the same machine that represented his latest business success, had just carried him straight over the edge. Rescuers later found the Segway in the water nearby. The injuries were severe, and the coroner ruled that he died from multiple blunt force injuries to his chest and spine. He was 62 years old. The shock wasn't just about the accident. It was the irony that made headlines around the world. A man worth more than $300 million, a philanthropist, an inventor, and the owner of the Segway company, had died while writing one of his own products. Not in a boardroom, not in a dramatic corporate battle, but in a quiet countryside accident that lasted only seconds. When his estate was settled, more than $340 million was left to his family. It was the fortune he had spent decades building. But the story people remembered wasn't the millions, the charity, or the inventions. It was the image of a wealthy entrepreneur riding a futuristic scooter and vanishing over the edge in a moment no one saw coming. In 2024, Dulandra was a 29-year-old teacher and a devoted mother. A young woman whose love for life radiated through everything she did. On a bright June afternoon, she joined hundreds of spectators in the town of Nepalad de Villa Grande, Mexico, drawn by the rare spectacle of a restored vintage steam locomotive making its historic journey across North America. For Dulcie, it wasn't just a train. It was a chance to create a memory, to share a special moment with her young son, and to capture it forever. But what began as wonder would end in heartbreak, leaving her family, community, and everyone who witnessed the events stunned and grief-stricken. The train that had drawn such a crowd was the Canadian Pacific 2816, known as the Empress. Built in Montreal in 1930, this H1B464 Hudson-type steam locomotive had been retired for decades before embarking on its final Spike Steam Tour, traveling through Canada, the United States, and Mexico. As it passed through Nepal de Villa Grande, just 60 miles northwest of Mexico City, spectators gathered eagerly along the tracks, eyes wide with excitement at the rumble of history in motion. Dulcie brought her son along, sharing the thrill and ensuring he could witness the train safely. In footage recorded that day, Dulcie can be seen kneeling on a small hill near the tracks, phone in hand, preparing to take a selfie with the massive locomotive as it thundered past. She instructed her son to stay low, away from danger, protecting him from the approaching force of the train. But in her search for the perfect angle, she misjudged the train's sheer size and speed. From her vantage point, it seemed distant, majestic, but it was far closer than she realized. The Empress roared past, its pistons striking with terrifying power, and in an instant, Dulcie's life was gone. The impact was sudden, fatal, and undeniable. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, but it was already too late. Her son, though physically unharmed, witnessed the unimaginable loss of his mother in a moment that would forever haunt him. News of the tragedy spread quickly, rippling through Mexico and beyond. Authorities reminded the public of the dangers of approaching active tracks, urging everyone to keep a safe distance. The operator of the Empress expressed deep sorrow, offering condolences to Dulcie's family and warning spectators against risking their lives for photographs near trains or railway infrastructure. Her funeral took place in her hometown of Wishapan, just 25 miles from the site of the tragedy. Friends, colleagues, and neighbors shared their grief online, honoring a woman whose life was abruptly cut short. Life is fragile, and at times it's taken away from us in an instant. I will miss you forever, my friend, one mourner wrote. Others echoed the sentiment, remembering her as a caring mother, a devoted teacher, and a woman full of warmth and energy. At the same time, many saw the tragedy as a stark warning about the dangers of risky selfies near hazardous locations. Dulcie's death became a sobering reminder that a single moment of inattention, a brief miscalculation, can transform joy into irreversible loss. Her story is a haunting testament to how quickly life can change, how fragile happiness can be, and how the pursuit of a perfect memory can come at the gravest cost.
The young millionaire, the Igbo tycoon who died tragically at a time he was to be celebrating his birthday.
Victor Nnamdi Okafor, better known as Ezego, or the King of Money, lived a life that many could only dream of, and yet his story ended in a way no one could have predicted. Born on December 25, 1964, into humble beginnings in Uzoakwa, Ahiala, in Anambra State, Nigeria, Ezego's childhood was fraught with hardship, family disputes, and controversy. From a young age, he displayed both resilience and audacity, but formal education was never his path. He dropped out of school early, and as a teenager, he allegedly became involved with local criminal activities, which eventually forced him to flee his hometown. What might have been a life of obscurity or misfortune, Ezego turned into opportunity. By 1989, he had relocated to Lagos with nothing but ambition and a vision to build wealth that would make him legendary. Ezego's rise was meteoric. Within a few short years, he transformed himself into one of Nigeria's wealthiest and most flamboyant businessmen. Starting with small trade ventures, he quickly mastered the art of networking and strategic partnerships. He expanded into electronics, real estate, and import-export businesses, leveraging every connection he could make to grow his empire. He built an empire of electronic stores, real estate ventures, and luxury properties, including over 70 houses across Nigeria and a N500 million mansion in Ihiala, with Italian imported marble and elaborate interiors that showcased his taste for extravagance. His car collection alone was worth nearly $1 billion naira, featuring Lincolns, Porsches, Mercedes convertibles, Lexus SUVs, and a fleet of other luxury vehicles paraded in grand convoys that left admirers and competitors alike stunned. He lived not just luxuriously but ostentatiously. His birthday celebrations were the stuff of legend, attended by celebrities and elites, often featuring live music, performances, and feasts that lasted for days. Ezego was not shy about showing his wealth. His mansions, businesses, and vehicles were symbols of power and status. Yet, behind the glamour and public celebrations, there was a recklessness that foreshadowed tragedy, a willingness to take risks that many would avoid, and a certain bravado that sometimes ignored the dangers around him. On his birthday in 1999, Ezego did something unthinkable. For a man who had always relied on a personal chauffeur, he chose that day to drive himself. It was meant to be a simple drive, a personal touch to his birthday celebration as he traveled from Lagos to his hometown of Ihiala for his annual Christmas and birthday festivities. But fate intervened. While towing a broken-down vehicle on the Onitsha-Owerri road, the chain connecting the two cars snapped. The Lexus he was driving collided violently with the towed Cherokee, sending Ezego hurtling into a deep roadside ditch. Emergency responders rushed him to Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital in Ihiala, but the hospital was poorly equipped for a man with such severe injuries. Treatment was delayed, and despite desperate attempts to stabilize him, Ezego succumbed to internal bleeding, passing away the day after his 35th birthday. The irony was stark and almost poetic. The man who had amassed unimaginable wealth and lived a life of grandeur died performing a task he rarely ever undertook, driving himself. The news sent shockwaves across Nigeria. His empire, meticulously built over a decade, began to crumble almost immediately. Abandoned mansions, rusting luxury vehicles, and a community wary of the origins of his wealth became silent reminders of his sudden absence. Family disputes erupted over inheritance, leading to lengthy lawsuits. Even the lawyer entrusted with executing Ezego's will, Barnabas Igwe, was later murdered alongside his wife under mysterious circumstances, fueling speculation of foul play. Rumors swirled that some of his business associates had sought to capitalize on his untimely death, and his fortune became the center of intrigue, betrayal, and tragedy. Beyond the material loss, Ezego's story left a cultural imprint. In the communities where he had operated, stories of his larger-than-life persona mixed with cautionary tales of greed, ambition, and the perils of flashy wealth. His former properties, once symbols of his success, fell into disrepair. His iconic mansion in Ihiala was abandoned, and Ezego Crescent, a street that bore his name and reputation, became a ghostly relic of his life. Even decades later, his life continues to fascinate, with the documentaries, articles, and public debates dissecting how such a meteoric rise could end so abruptly. In early August 2024, the Grand Canyon was already under a cloud of tragedy. Within days, 2 separate deaths had shocked park officials and visitors alike. But the worst was not over yet. Somewhere along Desert View Drive, near the quiet stretch of land known as Twin Overlooks, a young woman had vanished. 20-year-old Letitia Castillo had entered the park around August 3rd, traveling from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Like millions of visitors every year, she had come to see the canyon's endless cliffs and sweeping views. The area around Twin Overlooks is less crowded than the main viewpoints, quieter and more remote, with stretches of open rim that feel wild and untouched. There are places where the land drops off suddenly, without railings or barriers, just bare rock and a fall into the canyon below. It's the kind of place where the silence feels deeper, and the sense of isolation can make the canyon seem even more powerful. At some point during her visit, Letitia disappeared. No one saw exactly what happened. There were no immediate calls for help, no witnesses to describe a slip or a stumble. One moment, she was somewhere along the rim, and the next, she was simply gone. Days passed without any sign of her. Park officials launched a multi-day search, combing the rugged terrain below the overlooks. The canyon is vast and unforgiving, its cliffs, ledges, and shadowed crevices hiding countless blind spots. When someone goes missing there, finding them can take time, and sometimes the outcome is already certain long before the search ends. Every hour that passes in the canyon only makes the chances of survival smaller. On Tuesday, rangers finally located her body about 150 feet below the rim near Twin Overlooks. The discovery confirmed everyone's worst fears. Crews carefully recovered her remains and transported them back to the rim, where she was taken to the Coconino County Medical Examiner's office. An investigation was opened, but the details were painfully familiar. Officials once again reminded visitors to stay on marked paths, keep at least 6 feet from the edge, and remain behind railings and fences at overlooks whenever possible. Her death marked the 3rd fatal incident at the Grand Canyon in less than a week. Just days earlier, a college student had fallen 400 feet near Pipe Creek Overlook. Not long after that, a man attempting an illegal base jump had been found dead 500 feet below Yavapai Point. 3 separate incidents, 3 lost lives, all within the same stretch of days. An unsettling reminder of how quickly tragedy can unfold in a place that millions consider a dream destination. What makes Letitia's story especially unsettling is how little is known about her final moments. There were no dramatic stunts, no viral photos, no clear explanation, just a young woman visiting one of the most beautiful places on Earth, and then silence. somewhere near the rim, something went wrong. One misstep, one moment too close to the edge, and the canyon claimed another life. Standing at those overlooks, it's easy to forget how dangerous they can be. The view is hypnotic, the drop so vast it almost doesn't look real. People lean forward for a better look, step closer for a better picture, or wander just a little off the path because nothing seems threatening in the moment. Most of the time, nothing happens, but every so often someone crosses an invisible line, and the canyon reminds them, in the harshest possible way, that beauty and danger often live side by side. Elizabetha Liza Gushchina lived for the rush, the kind of adrenaline that made her heart pound and her spirit soar. On her 45th birthday in 2025, she didn't want a quiet dinner or a simple celebration. For Liza, milestones weren't meant to be gentle, they were meant to be conquered. That day, she climbed the towering 290-foot abandoned boiler chimney in Pavlovsk, near St. Petersburg, with her 23-year-old son Nikita by her side. The structure loomed like a metal giant against the sky, weathered and imposing. But to Liza, it was an invitation. She was an experienced rope jumper, a proud member of the Team 23 block, and for her, danger was not a threat, it was a thrill. Harnessed and secured, she stepped into the air for her first jump, the rope stretching and rebounding beneath her like a living thing. "Let's go!" she shouted, laughing as the wind rushed past. For those few seconds suspended above the ground, there was nothing but exhilaration. The jump was perfect, flawless. It was a moment that captured everything she loved about life: freedom, excitement, and the raw joy of pushing limits. But Liza wasn't done. She wanted a memory, a photograph that would capture her triumph and her presence atop that towering structure. So she climbed again, this time without ropes or safety gear. The metal platform creaked under her weight, exposed and unforgiving. Nikita watched, proud yet tense, as his mother moved into position for the selfie. In an instant, the thrill turned to horror. Her foot slipped. The world seemed to freeze. Liza fell the full 88 meters, nearly 300 feet, to the ground below. The sound of metal, wind, and impact cut through the afternoon. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but it was too late. Paramedics could not save her. What had begun as a day of celebration ended in unthinkable tragedy. For Nikita, for her family, and for the entire community that had admired her courage and spirit. Her team, 23 block, mourned publicly, their grief raw and unfiltered. In tragic circumstances, experienced jumper and mother of 2 children, Liza has passed away. Now the whole team is mourning this loss. "This is a very big tragedy for us," they wrote. Authorities launched an investigation, scrutinizing the abandoned chimney and the safety of such activities, questioning whether proper precautions had been followed. But behind the headlines, beyond the facts and the tragedy, is the story of a woman who truly lived on her own terms. Liza chased life at its extremes, embracing every heartbeat, every risk, every thrill. Her final day reflected exactly who she was: fearless, passionate, and unwilling to let fear dictate her choices. She died pursuing a selfie, a single image meant to capture joy. But her story is a haunting reminder of how fragile life can be when adventure flirts with danger, and how one moment can change everything.
We have an update on a story we first brought to you last night about a man who fell 400 feet to his death at the Grand Canyon.
In the early morning light of July 2016, the Grand Canyon looked calm, almost peaceful, as the sun slowly crept over the horizon. At Ooh-Ah Point along the South Kaibab Trail, the view stretched for miles, glowing in shades of gold and red. It was the kind of moment people travel across the country to see: a perfect sunrise, a perfect photo, a perfect memory. Among the small group of hikers at the overlook was 35-year-old Colleen Burns, a marketing director from Orlando who loved adventure and travel. She had already snapped a few pictures, even posting one online, smiling at the canyon just hours before everything changed. Ooh-Ah Point sits about a mile down the South Kaibab Trail, a popular spot known for its dramatic, wide-open views of the Eastern Canyon. But the trail to reach it is narrow. with steep drop-offs and very little room for error. There are no guardrails in many sections, and visitors are constantly reminded to stay on the path and watch their footing. That morning, as the sky brightened and the crowd slowly grew, the small overlook began to feel tighter and more crowded. The ledge was narrow, and the group at the viewpoint began to shift as more hikers arrived to catch the sunrise. Cameras came out, people shuffled for position, and someone needed a little more room. Pauline, trying to be polite, stepped aside to make space. It seemed like the smallest, most harmless decision. Just a step back, just a second of distraction. But at the edge of a 400-foot drop, even the tiniest misstep can become fatal. Her foot slipped. There was no time to recover. No railing to grab, no second chance. In an instant, she vanished over the edge, plunging into the canyon below. Park rangers later found her body hundreds of feet down. Officials said she died from multiple blunt force injuries. What had started as a beautiful sunrise hike with friends had turned into a nightmare in a matter of seconds. The accident shocked park officials because deadly falls are relatively rare, yet it was the second fatal fall in less than a month. Rangers again warned visitors to stay on marked trails, avoid backing up near cliffs, and always be aware of their surroundings. The canyon may look calm and inviting, but its scale is deceptive. Sheer drops, loose gravel, and changing weather can turn a peaceful hike into a life-or-death situation without warning. Back home, her parents were still thinking about their last conversation with her. The day before she left for the trip, she spoke to her mother about her plans and her excitement. She said she felt content with her life and wanted to travel and see the world. She wasn't afraid of anything, her father later said. She loved sunsets, sunrises, and new adventures. The photo she posted from the canyon, smiling at the view, would become the last image anyone ever saw of her. Her father later urged other visitors to respect the trails and avoid crowding narrow paths, believing that the tight space at the overlook contributed to the tragedy. He didn't want people to stop visiting the canyon, only to be careful while doing it. What makes the story so haunting is how ordinary it all was. No extreme stunt, no reckless dare, just a crowded viewpoint, a camera, and a single step in the wrong direction. It's a reminder that at the Grand Canyon, danger doesn't always come from dramatic risks. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the middle of a beautiful moment, when you think you're perfectly safe, and by the time you realize you're not, it's already too late.
The great playwright died in New York City in 1983 under circumstances so strange that it took multiple examinations to figure out what happened.
Tennessee Williams, one of America's most celebrated playwrights, lived a life of brilliance, glamour, and quiet torment. Yet his end was as shocking as it was absurdly simple. Born Thomas Lanier Williams III in 1911 in Columbus, Mississippi, he grew up amid a household of contradictions. A deeply religious grandfather, a mother struggling with an unhappy marriage, and a father prone to violent temper and alcoholism. His early life was marked by frailty, illness, and confinement, which left him weak but observant, a young boy absorbing the intense emotions around him. These early hardships would seep into the fabric of his plays, giving voice to fragile characters, intense desires, and the loneliness of the human condition. Williams was haunted by the story of his sister Rose, who developed schizophrenia in her youth and endured a lobotomy that left her institutionalized for life. Devoted to her care, he provided her a share of his royalties, a gesture that revealed a generosity born of guilt, love, and family obligation. The shadow of Rose's fate loomed over him, shaping his fears of insanity and his fragile relationship with stability. Despite, or perhaps because of, these early struggles, he discovered writing as salvation. By the time he reached his 20s, he was producing stories, poems, and plays with feverish intensity, often working late into the night fueled by black coffee and cigarettes. His literary breakthrough came at age 33 with The Glass Menagerie, a play born from memory, loss, and longing. It was an instant sensation, capturing audiences with its raw humanity and fragile beauty. This success was swiftly followed by A Streetcar Named Desire, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Sweet Bird of Youth, and The Night of the Iguana, securing his place among the greatest American dramatists. Critics lauded his work, and Broadway became the stage on which his genius unfolded. His plays, often adapted into films, earned him Pulitzer Prizes, Tony Awards, and international acclaim. But behind the triumphs lay a restless spirit, tormented by depression, addiction, and a fear of irrelevance. Williams's personal life was equally tumultuous. He navigated the complexities of love as a gay man in mid-20th century America, forming intense relationships that were often both passionate and destructive. His most enduring romance was with Frank Merlo, whose devotion brought Williams a rare period of stability and happiness. Merlot's death from lung cancer in 1963 plunged him into despair, exacerbating his dependency on alcohol and drugs and leading to years of mental and emotional instability. Despite these struggles, Williams continued to write, though many of his later works never achieved the acclaim of his earlier triumphs. By the early 1980s, Williams' life had settled into an uneasy rhythm of solitude, creative effort, and the lingering shadow of loss. He feared aging and losing his allure to younger men, and he was haunted by memories of failed relationships and the inexorable passage of time. And then, in 1983, the unthinkable happened. In a New York hotel room, Tennessee Williams, a man who had witnessed the extremes of human emotion, succumbed to a death both trivial and tragic. He choked on a plastic cap from a bottle of eye drop solution. Later reports clarified that he had been using it to ingest barbiturates, and that a toxic level of secobarbital had contributed to his demise. A man whose life was filled with drama, triumph, and deep emotional currents was undone by the simplest of accidents. In his will, Williams expressed a desire to be buried at sea, near the spot where the poet Hart Crane had met the same fate, a testament to his lifelong connection to art, death, and the sea. Yet, his brother arranged for him to be laid to rest in St. Louis, Missouri, alongside their mother. Most of his estate eventually went to the University of the South in Tennessee, ensuring that his legacy would continue to nurture creativity and literature for generations to come.